So glaucoma, as we know, is the problem is that it's progressive and it worsens with time. And the earlier you intervene, the better it is. So if you intervene well in time, you're more likely to preserve vision, because as a glaucoma person, what you need to do, and what you can do rather, is prevent functional visual loss for the remainder of the patient's lifetime. You must understand, and the patient must understand, that you'll never be able to get him back to what he was, but if you preserve what he has today, that your job is done. What we can do is provide powerful intraocular pressure control from the start to prevent further glaucomatous damage, and achieve the goal with the minimum number and strength of medication. So the least amount of medication and side effects to achieve the therapeutic response is what we are dealing with. And how do we do that? We do that by lowering pressure, because we know that lowering pressure helps glaucomas across the spectrum, whether it's high tension, whether it's normal tension, or whether it's ocular hypertension itself. So just an overview of the therapeutic option timeline over the last 125 odd years. We started with pilocarpine, went on to epinephrine in the early part of the last century. Acetazolamide came in the 50s, dipivefrin about 2 decades later, then Betagan, Bitoptic, Timoptic, and as we know, in the last 2 decades, we've had a plethora of glaucoma drugs amongst all the prostaglandins, the alpha agonists, the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, topical, etc., etc. So now we really have such a huge basket of choice, and it's not a lottery as to what to do. I'll just try to get you through in the next few minutes as to how to initiate. So usually, whether we like it or not, most of us would start with a prostaglandin analog for primary open-angle glaucoma. We have maximum myopia lowering as a monotherapy. We have effective diurnal pressure control. We have minimal tachyphylaxis, which is a long-term drift. It's convenient dosing, and there are few systemic concerns. But ocular side effects can be a problem, as you can see in this lady. Now, why would we like monotherapy? Obviously, because of compliance. That's common sense, but there is evidence from George Speight that 49% versus only 32% were compliant if they had to put just one drug a day compared to multiple. Why monotherapy? Again, because the washout effect is eliminated. It's important to tell the patients this 5-minute interval, and that's the evidence to show why. Because at 5 minutes, there is no loss of the first drug. But I can understand how difficult it must be to tell a patient to actually wait, because the tendency is to put one drop, maybe wait half a minute or so, and then put the other. So the washout is a problem. Again, the preservative effect is minimized. This is preservative allergy. It is not allergy from the drug. And benzalkonium chloride would be the most important to cause this preservative problem. Now, if it was also good, is there a problem? Yes, because they don't always lower IOP as much as you want it to. So even though it's efficacious, it may not be effective enough, which is why you would require something in addition. And nearly 1/4 require an additional drug within 1 year of starting therapy. So you need to give it 6 weeks of time and expect about 30% reduction with a prostaglandin. And if it is less than 20%, rather than add on, it's important to switch to another class. So important to understand that if there's less than 20% reduction of pressure with a prostaglandin, don't just keep adding more. It means that it's not effective enough. Switch and then try and do some more adding if you want to. So how we do treatment decisions is we start an initial monotherapy, look for the response, and what are the endpoints? The intraocular pressure, the visual fields, the optic disc, and of course the quality of life, whether or not the patient is okay when he is putting that drug or not. Now, suppose you've started an online and the treatment goal is not achieved, which means that it's effective, but it's not effective enough. That's when you add the second drug, and that can be a fixed combination or it can be an unfixed combination. Usually we unfix it, and when we are sure that we've achieved our therapeutic goal, we combine the two and then we have a fixed dose. But sometimes the initial monotherapy could be unresponsive or it could be intolerant, and then you try another monotherapy before you adding on. So that's the commonsensical approach as to how we start off with. Many times I've seen in our own center, in the OPD, I see somebody referred to the glaucoma clinic with POAG, 40 pressures, nothing else. And it's very common to have chronic PACGs and chronic POAGs with 35, 40 pressures. Dimox, Timolol, Alphagan, Lumigan, something, and refer to glaucoma clinic. How is that going to help? Remember, this gentleman or this lady has had these 40 pressures maybe for the last 10 years. Another couple of weeks is not going to matter. Start with one. If you're sure it's not a secondary glaucoma, start with one drug, see how effective it is, add on to the next, and do a commonsensical approach to giving medication rather than just doing a shotgun and then hoping the glaucoma clinic guys are going to do the rest. It's not going to work that way. Now, once you decide that a second drug is needed, the factors to keep in mind is whether it's effective enough, the efficacy, whether it's safe, whether it's tolerable, and whether it's convenient to dose. So the choices, as we all know, are beta blockers, alpha-2 agonists like brimonidine, topical carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, and miotics. So by and large, these are the adjuncts that we have. And just one by one, Timolol has the advantages because it's available as generics, it's available as fixed combinations, it helps compliance. But disadvantages that it's limited additional lowering of IOP with the prostaglandin. And the most important thing, the nocturnal pressure lowering is very limited. So across the diurnal variation, the Timolol is the one which does not work at night. So you need to keep that in mind. And usually by convention, when we combine Timolol with the prostaglandin, we then tell them to put it in the morning because there's no point in combining it at night because it's not going to work. Brimonidine has advantages because it's an alternative to beta blockers in respiratory disease. So please ask the patient whether they have anything, if they have COPD. They are available as generics, and a fixed dose is available with Timolol for glaucomas where prostaglandins are not used. But then you do have a high rate of allergy. This is an allergy with brimonidine, and the potential to cause fatigue and confusion. So sometimes it's important. Patients come and tell me that, you know, my father, ever since you've put him on treatment, he just keeps sleeping all day. So these are things that go beyond pressure control, and you must remember that it's a patient that we are treating and not just the eye. Dorzolamide and brinzolamide are in the market, but when it's used in adjunct, it's used twice a day. Now, there is additional IOP lowering of about 3 millimeters with latanoprost, about 5.2, and brinzolamide added to travoprost gives about 4%. So these are studies which are there. So plus minus 3 to 4 millimeters you can see if you add one of these. Pilocarpine gives quite a bit of lowering. The problems are the accommodative spasm in young, but remember, Pseudophakes and Afakes tolerate very well, and sometimes when nothing else works, pilocarpine is really, really good. So there was this comparison of adjuvant agents which to do, and in a nutshell, dorzolamide after a year seems to lower IOP better than beta blockers and alpha agonists when added to a prostaglandin. So this is one study which head-to-head compared all three when they were added as an adjunct. So there are mixed results because this was this one, so there are lots more studies came in, and if you see them, brinzolamide versus dorzolamide, the additional IOP reduction was equivalent in this study, but another one of dorzolamide versus brimonidine showed the diurnal IOP lower with brinzolamide rather than brimonidine. Now there is something called a diastolic ocular perfusion pressure, which is a diastolic BP minus the intraocular pressure. There's a higher prevalence of glaucoma amongst those with a lower diastolic ocular perfusion pressure. So you take the diastolic BP, say that's 80, and the intraocular pressure, if that's 30, then the DOPP is about 50. So anything more than that is supposed to be detrimental for glaucoma. Now the effect of glaucoma medication, all reduced IOP significantly from baseline, but if you see, there was a 46.2 millimeters DOPP with brimonidine, simply because it reduced the systemic BP as well. So if you have these problems of perfusion and you think the optic nerve looks really, really pale and he has lower blood pressure, maybe you need to be careful with giving brimonidine because it's going to lower it even more. So let's not forget, if prostaglandin is not the first line, usually it's Timolol, and if it's not enough, it may make sense to substitute with the prostaglandin in the next bit. It's not advisable for uveitis, and as an adjuvant, it can achieve about 30% of reduction. So in a nutshell, recent studies seem to favor topical carbonic anhydrase inhibitors to be more effective for intraocular pressure control when used as an adjuvant. Brinzolamide appears to score over dorzolamide according to studies, with a more neutral pH and less likelihood to sting. And particulate crystals in brinzolamide may produce a foreign body sensation, and they are both contraindicated in sulfa allergy. There's no ideal combination that fits everybody. You need to take each patient as it comes, and you need to see what you're treating before just jumping on. So do not have a shotgun bag full of anti-glaucoma medications which you can just write as a prescription, which is 1 page long, and hope that you've done your job well. They may not be the first choice for a host of secondary glaucomas. So prostaglandins are basically for primary glaucomas, please remember that. Adjuvants may vary according to the response of the patient and of course according to the disease profile, but the wide variety of drugs available has enabled us to individualize our treatment better. That's the important thing, individualize it to the patient for better management. Thank you.